What kind of bride runs into the mountains with a torn wedding dress and only one shoe? Megan Hill never imagined she would be that woman. Yet there she was, stumbling through the cold wilderness with fear chasing her like a shadow. The mountain wind rushed through the tall pines, almost pushing her back as if warning her to turn around. Her white wedding dress was ripped and covered in dirt. One satin shoe was gone, lost somewhere on the trail behind her. Her bare foot was cut and bleeding from rocks and thorns. Her breath came out in sharp gasps that turned into white mist in the freezing air. She had been walking since morning, and the sun was now sinking behind the peaks. Long, dark shadows stretched across the ground, making the forest feel alive and watching her. Her foot struck a sharp stone. Pain shot up her leg and she fell to her knees. For a moment she stayed there, shaking, her hands covering her face. A cold, lonely sob escaped her lips. 3 days ago she had been the happiest bride in Silver Creek, ready to marry the banker's son in the grandest wedding the town had ever seen. Now she was alone, cold, and running for her life. A sound cut through the silence. Boots on gravel. Megan's head snapped up, her heart thundering inside her chest. A tall man stepped out from between the pine trees. He moved quietly, like he belonged to the mountains. He was broad-shouldered, wearing weathered clothes fit for the wilderness. A rifle rested carefully in his arm. His dark eyes settled on her torn dress, her bare foot, her frightened face. He did not look shocked, only concerned. Jacob Sanders. The townspeople called him the Mountain Hermit. Some said he was dangerous. Others said he had lost his mind after the war. Most people crossed the street to avoid him. But Megan could not stand, let alone run. She had no strength left for fear. "You're a long way from town, miss," he said softly, setting his rifle down and walking toward her with slow, calm steps, as if approaching a wounded animal. "What happened to you?" Quote. Megan tried to speak, but only a broken sound came out. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She pointed helplessly to her bare foot, her ruined dress, the endless trees around them. He understood. Jacob knelt beside her. His voice was gentle, steady, and warm. "Can you walk?" She shook her head. "I've been walking since dawn. I don't think I can go any further." He was quiet for a few seconds, thinking. Then he stood, stepped closer, and leaned down. Before she could react, his strong arms lifted her off the ground with ease. She gasped at the sudden warmth of his body. "I'll carry you the rest of the way," he said. He made it sound simple, natural, right. Wrapped in his coat, Megan let her head rest against his shoulder as he walked up the trail with steady steps. Exhaustion pulled at her, but her mind replayed how this nightmare began. 3 days earlier, Megan stood in her father's home while women fussed over her expensive wedding dress. The gown had come from Denver, made of the finest satin with pearl buttons down the back. Tyler Clark, her groom, was handsome, wealthy, and promised her a secure life. But something in her stomach had felt cold that day, as if her heart knew a truth her mind did not. The wedding was grand, full of important people from Silver Creek and nearby towns. Flowers had been shipped in, the preacher spoke of devotion and duty, and everyone admired the perfect couple. Tyler slipped a golden ring on her finger, smiling proudly. Megan smiled too, but something in her heart felt heavy. The truth shattered her world that night. She had stepped out of the ladies' room at the hotel when she heard Tyler's voice behind a half-closed door. "Of course I don't love her," he laughed, "but her father owns half the mining claims. Once I get control, I can find more interesting company." Megan froze, her bouquet trembling. His business partner laughed too. "And what about her?" "She's naive. She'll do what I say. Give me sons. Never question me. It's perfect." Those words crushed her. Later that night, when she tried to speak to Tyler, he slapped her across the face. "You're my wife now. You'll obey, or you'll learn the hard way." But Megan Hill was stronger than he believed. Before dawn, she fled with only her dress and a small bag, hoping to reach Denver. But when she heard horses behind her on the road, she ran into the woods. Branches tore her dress, her shoes slipped off. She kept running. Now Jacob was carrying her toward a small warm light between the trees. A cabin. A safe place. He pushed open the wooden door and set her down gently near the fire. "You need warmth and food," he said. "You're safe now." Megan looked around the small cabin. It was simple but clean, with handmade furniture and shelves of books. The smell of stew filled the air. For the first time since she ran, her frozen heart felt the slightest spark of hope. She didn't know this man. She didn't know what tomorrow held. But she knew one thing with certainty. Running had saved her, and meeting Jacob Sanders might change everything. Megan sat near the warm fire, wrapped in Jacob's coat, watching the flames dance as he moved around the small cabin. Her body was exhausted, but her mind stayed alert, unsure if she truly could trust a stranger. Yet something about Jacob felt safe. His calm actions, the distance he respectfully kept, the way he spoke gently, instead of questioning or blaming her. He placed a bowl of hot stew and a piece of bread beside her. "Eat, you need strength." The first spoonful nearly made her cry. It was simple stew, but warm, filling, and tasted like safety. Jacob did not stare at her or push her to talk. He busied himself with checking the locks and making sure the fire stayed strong. "You're not what people in town say," Megan said softly. He paused, looking at her with steady eyes. "And what do they say?" "That you're dangerous. That you can't be around people since the war." Jacob looked into the fire for a long moment. War changes a person. "The mountains help quiet the noise here." Then he looked at her with honesty. "But I would never harm you." Megan believed him. After she finished eating, Jacob gently washed and bandaged her injured foot. His touch was careful and respectful. "You'll heal fast if you rest. Stay here until you get your strength back." Something inside her cracked. No one had ever helped her without expecting something in return. Her father cared more for business than her feelings. Tyler had pretended to love her only to gain control of her father's land. But this mountain man was helping her simply because she needed help. When she began to shake from emotion, Jacob spoke softly. "You're safe here, Megan." Later, he set up a bed for her near the fire, using his own blankets. "I'll sleep in the back," he said. "You're not trapped. Door isn't locked. If you ever feel unsafe, you can leave." No man had ever spoken to her that way, but Megan did not sleep easily. Nightmares of Tyler's cruel words and his hand striking her woke her again and again. At one point, she whispered a cry, and Jacob rushed to her side, his voice warm and steady. "You're safe. No one is hurting you here." She finally slept with those words in her heart. The morning sun slipped into the cabin. Jacob was already up cooking breakfast. He had set out clean clothes that once belonged to his sister. Megan changed behind a curtain he hung for privacy. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Her hair was messy, her dress replaced with simple clothes, her face marked with scratches. But for the first time, she saw something new in her eyes. Strength. Jacob noticed it too. "How's the foot?" "It hurts, but I can walk now, thank you." He nodded once, not seeking praise. "You'll need a plan. That man from town won't forget you." Her heart sank. "I can't go back. Tyler will find me. And even if he didn't, the town will never forgive a bride who ran away." "Then choose a new life," Jacob said. "There's more than one way to live." The idea sounded impossible. Megan had spent her whole life living by society's rules. Yet for the first time, she wondered if she could choose something different. Something her heart wanted. Jacob told her about an abandoned homestead 5 miles away. "It needs work, but it can be a fresh start. If you want it, I'll help you fix it." Her breath caught. For a moment, she saw a life she had never imagined. Not a life of balls and fancy dresses, but one of honesty, hard work, and freedom. A life where she chose who she wanted to be. "I want to try," she whispered. "I want to build a life that is mine." Jacob nodded. "Then we'll start today." The next few days were full of steady work. Megan learned to sweep out dust, mend broken windows, fix roof shingles, and gather firewood. Jacob showed her how to bank a fire for the night, how to store food, how to survive the mountains. They worked side by side, saying little but understanding much. Megan found joy in every small accomplishment. Each task made her feel more like a person with a purpose, instead of a decoration meant for display. One afternoon, as Megan and Jacob replaced worn leather hinges on the cabin door, Jacob suddenly stiffened. He stared down the valley. His face changed in a way that made her heart drop. "What is it?" she asked. "Riders," he said. "3 of them, coming up the trail." Megan's blood ran cold. She didn't need to ask who it was. Tyler had found her. Jacob grabbed his rifle. "Go inside. Stay low, away from the windows." But Megan stood frozen. The fear she thought she had escaped came rushing back. Her breath caught, and her knees weakened. Jacob placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her. "Look at me." She met his eyes and saw no fear there, only strength. "You're not the same woman who ran from that hotel," he said. "You're stronger now. Whatever happens, remember that." The sound of horses grew louder. Megan's heart pounded, but she did not hide. Tyler Clark rode into the clearing with 2 men. His expression was cruel and confident. He looked at Megan as if she were a thing he owned. "There you are, my dear wife," he said coldly. "You've caused enough trouble. You're coming home." Megan took a breath. Her voice surprised even her. "I'm not your wife. I never truly was." Tyler's eyes darkened with anger. Jacob stepped forward between them, tall and steady. "She is not property." Tyler narrowed his eyes. "You think you can take what belongs to me?" "She belongs to no one," Jacob answered. The air grew tight with danger. Tyler's hand lowered toward his gun. This moment would change everything. "Wait, before we move on, what do you think about the story so far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious to know." Tyler's hand moved closer to the gun on his hip. Megan held her breath as the tension in the clearing sharpened like a knife. Jacob did not raise his rifle, but the calm in his eyes made it clear he was ready to protect her if needed. "You are making a mistake," Tyler said through clenched teeth. "Megan is my wife. By law, I can take her back." Megan stepped forward, standing beside Jacob. "No, you cannot. I didn't choose you. I didn't choose that life." Tyler stared at her as if he could not understand the word no. A wife has duties. She honors her husband. She obeys. Megan shook her head. "That ends today." Jacob spoke firmly. "You heard her. She stays." Jeffrey Lee, the man next to Tyler, shifted nervously. "Maybe we should listen, Tyler. She doesn't want to go." "Be quiet," Tyler snapped. But the third rider, Deputy Davidson, finally spoke. "Tyler, she isn't being held here. She's choosing to stay. The law won't side with you if she ran because she was mistreated." Tyler's face reddened. "She's confused. This man has tricked her." "No one tricked me," Megan said. "You never loved me. You loved my father's land. You said so yourself." Tyler froze. Jacob glanced at her, understanding. "You heard us?" Tyler said, his voice low with embarrassment and anger. "I did. You were planning to control my family's minds and find other women behind my back." For the first time, Tyler looked unsure. The truth laid bare in front of witnesses shook him. His pride cracked. His anger returned fast. "Enough," he barked. "Megan, get your things. You are coming home with me." "No," she said again. "I'm not leaving." The word hit Tyler like a slap. "You are a foolish woman. You think life up here is better? You will regret this." Jacob finally spoke, his voice low and steady. "If you don't leave now, regret will be yours." Quote. Tyler stared at Jacob, and for a moment Megan feared he would pull his gun, but slowly he seemed to realize he had lost. He could drag her away by force, but not with the law or dignity on his side. "This isn't over," he said. "I'll have the marriage annulled. Everyone will know what kind of woman you are." Jacob answered calmly. "They'll know she chose her freedom and her own life. That's something to be proud of." Tyler pulled his reins sharply and rode off, the other 2 following. As their horses disappeared down the mountain trail, Megan's legs gave out. She sank onto the cabin steps, shaking. Jacob placed his rifle aside and sat beside her. "It's over." "Is it really over?" she whispered. "It will be," he said gently. "You're not alone anymore." Megan looked at him, tears filling her eyes. "What you said back there, that I'm worth fighting for, did you mean it?" Quote. Jacob's voice was soft but true, "With all my heart. But more than dying for you, Megan, I want to live with you." Quote. Something inside her broke open, not from pain, but from relief, hope, and something deeper she was still learning how to feel. "I don't know how to be a mountain woman," she said honestly. "I don't know this life." Jacob gave a small smile. "Then I'll teach you. And you'll teach me how to live again. We'll learn together." Megan felt warmth spread through her chest. For the first time in her life, her future felt like hers. The days that followed were busy, but full of new purpose. Megan and Jacob worked side by side to make the abandoned homestead into a real home. Megan learned to cook over a fire, gather herbs, store food, and take care of herself in the mountains. She was stronger than she had ever known. And every night, Jacob sat with her by the fire, listening, talking, laughing. It wasn't a grand romance of silk dresses or fancy dances. It was real, honest, kind. And Megan found that she did not miss her old world at all. Spring brought change. One clear morning under the tall pines, a traveling preacher visited their mountain settlement. With only a few neighbors as witnesses, Megan and Jacob exchanged vows. There were no flowers from Denver, no fancy rings. Jacob placed a simple gold band he shaped with his own hands on her finger. Megan's smile held more joy than her grand wedding ever had. Years passed, and Megan never once looked back with regret. She built a life filled with love, freedom, and peace. She and Jacob raised children who knew strength, kindness, and the courage to choose their own future. Megan sometimes thought of the bride who once arrived in the mountains with one shoe, scared and alone. That girl felt weak then, but now she knew the truth. That broken moment was the beginning of everything good. She didn't just find a mountain man that day, she found herself. And the words Jacob told her on that first night stayed in her heart forever. Everyone deserves help when they need it. But what Megan learned was this: sometimes a person doesn't just need help. Sometimes they need to be carried until they remember how to stand. And Jacob had carried her right into the life she was always meant to have.